This presentation is like, it's Blunder Mountain. I'm going to go through operationally all the things that I did really poorly and had to learn from that hopefully you guys can learn from. You don't have to make the same mistakes. We can learn from other people's mistakes. But you know, it was 4 years ago. I was 8 years, that's not right math, 6 years into the agency, and I sought no help. I never went to any event like this. I literally was just head down doing the same thing by myself. My world completely changed when I realized you could get in the room with like other like-minded folks that are going in the same destination and learn from other people's mistakes, and you're not just, you know, relegated to learn from your own mistakes. And so we're talking the operational machine that we use. We're specifically talking about HL Pro Tools. Probably the idea here was that like if there's something I could sell you, it's in this world. You do not need to buy this unless you want to. But because in a way, I feel like we're a niche specific market leader that's also the cheapest. No, I'm just kidding. But we run a few different brands. I am gonna pull it, like there's lessons here beyond this, but if you're like, nah, why should I pay attention? Just in this world that was kind of like a hobby, a sell your, you know, sawdust sort of a thing, we've, let's talk about it. So in the last 3 years, oh man, I went too far. Oh no, I just gotta, did I do that or did you do that? Okay, I might have to get closer. But so we went from 9 to 90 team members, and that number I don't actually even know. I know we haven't quite crossed 100 because we're good at firing. And 0 to 1,500 subscribers. These are agencies. This is just this side of it. So JC's saying like we've been doing a lot of SaaS. We go direct. We also run white label support on behalf of agencies or brands or people running HighLevel. So Frank Kern, Peng Jun, Julie Stoy, like these people, their customers come to us. So in light of that, 90 folks, a team of 90 actually feels relatively small for the amount of people that we serve, and it comes down to a lot of stuff that I'm gonna cover today. But so this is, for whatever it is, a little bit of context into me, like why am I even here, but it's not been a long time. Like 4 years ago, I remember standing in a room like this, the first time I'd ever been in a space like this, and saying, here was my reality. We had done some stuff from the agency world. I felt like I had money, but it was so connected to my time. If there was an unhappy client, my day was ruined. It didn't matter where I was at, I actually was a slave to any one client in the business. And the meaningful thing that was happening in 2019, doing that right? I was saying 4 years, is that right? Maybe I'm doing bad enough. This was only 3 years ago, my goodness. My wife was pregnant with our first child. And I knew, I had this clear vision. Winning in life for me is raising well-adjusted human beings who want to spend time with me when they no longer have to. Anybody else here a visionary? Yeah. I think all of us can be visionary. I think it's good to have a sight of where you're going. This is also operations from the perspective of a visionary. There's things in here that I'm going to give you guys, kind of like the breakdown of there's tactical things in here, but I want to give you big domino movers that have kept me aligned. So on a day-by-day basis, as I continue to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, we somehow keep on going in the right direction. I know there's folks in this room who are no longer customers. Like you've experienced our blunders, and so I'm just going to like uncover that, but I'm going to tell you, it doesn't kill you, right? We win or we learn, and we've done a lot of learning over the last couple of years. So I might need to change where I'm talking from, I guess. So okay, we're gonna walk down here. It's gonna be fun and close and personal. There you go. Start working. Oh, I don't know if I'm controlling this or not. Operational transformation, right? I'm gonna let them run the slides because I told you guys to orient this way, and it would be a disservice to make you guys swivel your heads. 3 pieces to this. You guys have heard this before. People, process, and technology. Anybody gotten that? If you want to transform something in your business, it probably comes down to one of these levers. And I'm going to give you examples of all of these. So this is kind of like a 3x3. I'm going to pick the 3 critical things that we did operationally, lessons that we learned through blunders, and then examples of how we implemented something new that had to do with people, it had to do with process, and it had to do with technology, right? So a little bit of balance of, that's the lens we're going by. 3 things that I would say if you want to transform your operations to have the kind of stability where you could serve tens of thousands of clients, and your day-to-day experience is one where you get to be present with the things that are most meaningful to you in your life. Like I block out, today was a significant like commitment coming here because I left my wife with little support trying to struggle on her own. But even our normal reality, I block out 10 to 1 every single day. I don't work. I do the thing that's most important in my life. I'm just present with my kids, specifically my toddler, because it's a fun season of adventure, and it's also a lot to have an infant and a toddler at the same time. But so that's my day-to-day. 7 days, Saturdays and Sundays I get even more time, but Monday through Friday, you want to have a call with me at 10:30? That seems reasonable. I'm sorry, I'm not working then, right? Because we have the operational machine that allows me to do that and still to serve at a very high level. And so that's what we're going to look at that, the people, the process, the technology, and then these 3 key blocks of things that we had to learn how to do so much better to get to the place that we are today. So let's go next slide. This quote, good and evil both increase at compound interest. That's why the little decisions you and I make every day are of infinite importance. This is a C.S. Lewis quote, and I love it, right? Whatever you do in good or in bad, they compound in the effect. So what does he say? The decisions that you and I make every day, even in little things, have infinite importance. Let's go, next slide. The decision making, the ability to make decisions. This is something I took for granted, right? When you're in it, you've got a history and an experience and a motivation that leads you to subconsciously be a high performer. It's hard to take full analysis of all the things they're going into, but it's possible. So we had to find a way to scale good decision-making processes, right? We need to scale decision-making. So in the small things, they were more good because that's what compounds into the output of what we're doing. And so the breakdown, I'm going to go deeper into this, but I know the words are very tiny, especially for the back there. In terms of people, in terms of process, in terms of technology. On the people side, we realized that we wanted doers who can learn rather than learners who could do. We found a way to document creating this decision-making guidelines, and then we create a single point of knowledge. Let's go next slide. The hiring action takers. Doers who can learn. I will take doers who can learn over learners who can do every day of the week. The reality is, not only is decision-making a critical skill, but actually making a decision quickly. Indecision is we have a couple of these isms in the business. So one of them is the only guaranteed bad response is no response. The only guaranteed bad response is no response. And this one almost on the same way. The only guaranteed bad decision is indecision. Doing nothing is usually the same result as if it was like a worst case scenario. Like you might think, well, Matt, there could be a decision that could have even worse. And I'd say, yes, that's true. But in life and in business, the infinite games we play, it's an uphill, right? To think that we're standing still, that I'm just gonna stop moving here, just means we're gonna be unaware of the fact that we're sliding back. Right? I love the old Crest commercial of if you're not teeth whitening, you're teeth yellowing. You guys remember that? It's the same thing in life and business. If you're not advancing, if you're not progressing, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? We don't wander into success. We wander into chaos. Any area of our life where we find ourselves thoughtlessly just existing, there's a significant chance that we're going in the opposite direction than we want to be going. And so indecision is the only guaranteed bad decision. So I wanted fast decision makers who were more likely to make good decisions, right? And so I needed to hire for doers who can learn. What does that mean? One of our core values is fail forward. We have our core values line with the days of the week. So we got Monday, Tuesday, and Friday was fail forward. Right? So fail forward Friday, meaning we want to make mistakes but learn from them. We want to encourage our people to take action always, but not repeat mistakes. So how do I hire decision makers? This is a tactical piece of you need to be looking at, I need doers who can learn, not learners who can do. The question we asked in the hiring process that kind of shifted this is, tell me something you're proud of in the last year. So tell me something you did in the last year. You listen. The people who can immediately be I can tell you there's 3 things that I did and I'm really proud of this, right? Even if I did it, I made it happen and it wasn't quite the exact result, but we innovated, we grew. Those folks, you want them on the team. The people who are let me think about it. If they struggle in the hiring process to recount one thing that they're proud of over the last year or in their current position, they are probably a learner who can do. They probably spent a lot of time educating perseverating over whatever it is, and they're not as inclined to just taking imperfect action. We need to be a team of people who are fine with taking imperfect action, realizing that the game, I'm obsessed with this book this year. It's Simon Sinek. It's called The Infinite Game, but he talks about the parallel between finite games like sports, like soccer, and infinite games like life and business. And he says, one of the reasons why you can have like in 5 years you can make an incredible athlete, and very rarely in 5 years do you make an incredible human being or incredible business, is because of this iteration. You play a game, you got 90 minutes. You win or you lose. You have a constraint forcing you to make decisions quickly. And then you go back and you learn from it, you get to do it again. And so the same thing in business, if I can get doers who can learn, they will take action, and then we can reflect, we can adjust, that iterative cycle of growth is gonna go so much faster. Next slide. So hiring action takers, those are the things. We want to ask them, what is something you're proud of? If they hesitate, they're probably not the right fit. So creating a DMG. So DMG, this is decision-making guidelines. I learned this first when I went to hire an assistant. The team was probably like 30 people before I thought like I should have my own assistant. I was basically using like our COO as my assistant. And I learned this concept. It's kind of like programming for technology. You can actually download how you make decisions. You can have these kind of isms or phrases or kind of guidelines on paper. This needs to exist written down. So if someone comes onto the team, they can look and see, here's how Matt thinks, here's how Matt makes decisions. My dad was a drywaller, ingrained in this measure twice, cut once. And that's one of our decision-making guidelines. Measure twice, cut. You might just say, check your work, or trust but verify, whatever it is. It's clear, it's there, right? Our reputation is the only, will outlast everything that we do, right? So if anyone has an experience where we miss expectations, walk 2 miles to restore the relationship, right? These are decision-making guidelines. So if anyone's like, oh my gosh, a customer's upset, whatever it is, they know, oh, here's another one of ours. We're easy like Costco. And now I'm gonna say we're better than Costco, right? If anybody, I love Costco. You go to Costco and anybody return something to Costco? Oh, it's not my people. You guys don't return stuff to Costco? There we go. Was that the last time you ever bought something from Costco? Man, for most of it in our business, we treat refunds like it's a breakup, and I realize a refund can actually be just a positive buying experience. Hey, we missed expectations. Guess what? It's not the end of the world. Actually, it's not hard. Take your money back. I have a bigger purpose in mind. I make decisions based on the stories I want to tell my kids 80 years from now, and also the stories I'm going to recount with all of you 500 years from now, right? The direction, the decision, the impact of how I live my life has a much longer time horizon. So I'm okay with missed expectations. I'm more concerned about restoring the relationship. That all sounds good and nice and fine. For us, it's natural. We have those things ingrained in us. We've had those experiences. For the team, they have no idea. They could be walking off the street of a company that was like, you can't do refunds, we lose money, or whatever it is, right? We are different. We operate in a different way. And all you gotta do is download that. It literally takes maybe 2 hours. Sit down and think. It could be as small as 5, as many as 20, of things that you realize, here's how I live my life. Here's how I live these are the things that cause me to make decisions. You put that down on a piece of paper and you watch how even someone new is more inclined to make the right decision because they had a lens by which making decisions, right? I told them we're easy like Costco. They could be brand new week 1. And if they are like, someone asked for a refund and they went above and beyond to restore the relationship, A+, right? That's how we're able, this is one of the levers, right? In terms of how can we make the team better at decision making. Next slide. Okay, this IKB. This is another one in scaling the team. It's unintuitive, but it's one of those things. If you've got any sort of a team, you will start to identify top performers and low performers. It'll just happen naturally, right? You'll have your people like, man, they're an all-star. And then you'll have folks like, they're just struggling. And you'll wonder, why is it, right? Maybe they've got a similar background, they got a similar skill set. Some of them are doing great, some of them are not. It's probably because you don't have an internal knowledge base. What top performers do is they start to make their own archives of processes, their own archives of things they've learned, the little things they pick up because they're good, right, at deciding and learning. And they document it for themselves. And you look at it, it's like if you guys use Google Drive, there'll be like this attic of like, they've just got all these things stored up in their individual attic. You don't have a centralized Knowledge base, where when someone learns, we all learn. When someone learns, we all learn. So this was so first one was people, right? Hire doers who can learn, not learners who can do. Second one was process. Document your decision-making guidelines. The third one, it is a technology piece. Like, put a decided central bank of where your knowledge lives. There's so many out there. It could be as simple as Google Docs. We kind of didn't like Google Docs because it's very easy to accidentally make something just for yourself, right? It was almost like this they call it like a drive attic, where you got all these things just like lost up there. So we picked a different tool. I don't know if I necessarily love it, but I'll tell you guys, it's called Help Juice, and that is like our knowledge base. People are like wondering where you find out how anything works. It's in the knowledge base. And it's kind of cool because it tracks like who's actually reviewed this sort of stuff, who's seen it, when was the last edit. And we've got every single department, everything you can imagine. It lives in there. When we learn something, we put it in the knowledge base. So the next person who comes along to do the same task or whatever it is, there's less of a mystery. And then when we improve, right, when we make an improvement, the improvement's for everyone. So one of those unintuitive things that I think I had to pay like $30,000 to have some consultants just tell me like, oh, you should put it all in one place. So you're welcome, everyone. So no, it's easier said than done, but this is, from a technology standpoint, a lever that you can pull to transform your operations. It's this. Let's go to the next one. Okay, we talked decisions, but deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. Let's go for the next. This is delegation, effective delegation. We've learned it in the process of growing up in the business. Usually you're doers, then you've got your managers, then you've got your directors, and then you've got your visionary. Like 4 tiers, and maybe it's said in different ways. But in that process, you realize as a visionary, I feel like I do very little. I do very specific things, but my list of to-dos is way smaller than it was when I was the doer, right? When I had to just do the thing. I was doing the client work, all those things. But the act of replacing yourself is a hard skill. Otherwise, you'd look out in the world and everyone would be, a director or a visionary, owner, whatever it is, right? It's not natural, especially when we've got a high integrity. We want to do good work. So you need to teach your team and probably yourself how to be better at delegation. And so the 3 things where I'm going to go through. What does come into? A players. Oh, we're going to talk about how do you attract A players. If you don't feel like you have an A player, I'm going to tell you some of the secret there to attracting A players, because A players, they play with multiplication, not just addition. Right? B players, basically just addition. They want to do more, you just add. We're going to talk through 360 delegation, another principle in terms of a process thing that we've implemented across the entire organization that helps us to be better at effective delegation. And the third thing is we're going to look at this hub and task management. So let's go next slide. The attracting A players. Let me hear a ratio. Like who's in marketing is what you provide in terms of the service. Are we more marketing? Okay. Is there other like digital assets like design or websites? Even though I could argue that's kind of still in the marketing world. Okay, so non-marketing. All of us probably should get better at marketing. I'll tell you, in my business, for the first, it was 2012 to 2016, 4 years, I didn't do any marketing. I didn't think of it in that way. It was just a website. We were just dev and design. That was all we did. We mostly existed on referrals. We found a couple strategic ways we could buy leads and do it on that side. And it wasn't until I made the shift to say, I want to be doing the thing that people want to sign up for yesterday, not the thing that they'll be like, I'll start that in 2 months, that we started working in the world of marketing. But marketing at its core is connecting people to goods and services. It's the world of connecting. Being a better connector actually is just a skill set that will serve you in every area of your life. And so it doesn't matter what you do, you have to be good at marketing. It's just fun if you do marketing, because then it's like what you do is also what you need to do more of it. This grid was just a mind-blowing thing when I realized how we weren't doing marketing when it came to our own team. So top level there, left side is internal, right side is external. And sorry, that's of the top row. We got internal, external, the little icons there. On the left side, I've got acquire, that's my little target, and then ascend is the bottom there. So these quadrants. So I go like top left quadrant, right, that's internal acquisition. Let's go top right quadrant is external acquisition. What is that? That is lead generation. That's how you find customers. That's mostly the only quadrant that people think about or have any sort of system or process in when they think of their marketing. Like for ourselves, how do we do marketing? External acquisition. I get leads, right? I run an ad, they find out I exist, and they say, I'm interested in maybe buying your goods or service or whatever it is, and that's it, right? And then you go down, so most people only think in that right column, external, like just customers. So I got acquisition, then I got ascension. We were talking about earlier, raising your prices. I got to give it to you, but Melissa, in that question of how do you level up, you got these people legacy on there, you need to give them another plan that feels irresistible and so good they feel silly saying no to it. And then if you really want to like fire them or not fire them, you could basically say, hey, I will agree to the old plan of what we had, and I'm gonna make it free for you. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna pull away the things that I've been giving you that weren't on the same page. I'm gonna go back to what you originally had when you signed up, but it's gonna be free. I'm not gonna charge you. So I'm actually giving you the choice of free, pay me nothing, but have what we originally agreed upon, or level up to this better experience that has all these things that's gonna be paid. But that's all ascension, right? So those are customers on the right side. That's outside of the organization. You can do the exact same things internally. This was a major blind spot for us. We were running no marketing when it came to our own team. Now the product, the goods or service, that's us. That's working for us. We needed to be connecting prospects, potential team members, and the same things that you could advise someone else. You do marketing and they're like, I want to get more leads. Let's say they're a roofer. You're like, I want to get more leads. So I'm thinking top right quadrant. It's external acquisition. And you might tell them, it'd be a good idea to get more reviews. It's how people judge you. It's social proof. It's out there. That's a great way. Okay, cool. Let's go do that. And ask them for reviews on GMB. Let's go left side. I want to get more applications. Same advice. Let's get some more reviews. Let's ask your team members to rate and review you on Glassdoor. People are surprised why I run an ad and we get so many more and better and higher quality candidates. It's because we just realized we can do the exact same things that we know, time tested, they were so obvious to us in the external, the lead generation side, and just apply it over onto the team side, right? Oh, you want to increase the lifetime value of your teammates? They stay around longer, they're more productive, right? Whatever it is. Give them a bigger plan to buy into. Like in the same thing, like, people stop buying for you for two reasons. You offend them or you stop selling to them. And most of us, the latter. It's the same thing with their teammates. Teammates leave your company because you either offend them or you stop selling to them. You don't give them the opportunity to level up. There's no potential desirable future. They feel like their growth has stopped. Right? Right side, external lead generation. Left side, internal team generation. And so I don't have enough time to go through all the parallels here, but I just want to give you that model because you'll start to see the things that are probably easier for you, especially if you live in marketing. Like, what would you tell an electrician to do if they wanted to increase their prices? And on the team side, it actually goes the reverse way of how do you not have to pay more to get higher quality talent? I'll tell you, we just made a hire. I'm going to say we poached. We poached someone. You guys know Alex Hormozy? Much bigger business than me. I just pulled someone from his team and I paid them no more money. How did I do that? It was this grid. It was this grid plus I focused on the levers of value. All of us think of money because money is the critical value in your business. On the people side of it, think time, think health, think status, think relationships, think core values. Those are 5 other ways of things that people would prefer to be valued in. Right? You play the game. Give you $1 million, but you die tomorrow. No. Give you $1 million, but you're sick every day starting tomorrow. No. Give you $1 million, but everyone hates you starting tomorrow. No. Give you $1 million, but you live in isolation. All of your family, your friends, everyone, they're gone. No. Give you $1 million, but you have to live in conflict with your own core values, your own beliefs starting tomorrow. No. Just proof positive that there's other levers you can play in terms of building value. But yeah, I'm proud of that fact. We just took from a big growing brand that has way more potential upside. I don't know if that's true, but has very public upside. And we got someone to come over to our team and we're paying no more. I said, I can improve all of these other areas in your life. Do you really need more money? Is that really what's valuable to you, right? But it came from this. We were playing marketing on the left side. If you want to attract A players, that's the other difference here. Most of us have B players. B players are worse than C players, and I'll tell you why. Because B players will stay around because they're just good enough. A players multiply. They know how to delegate. They are inclined to replace themselves. They are inclined to work smarter, not harder. B players typically work harder, not smarter, right? They're usually just filling the role enough, but there's this usual balance of like, you're technically doing it, but you're in active frustration for us operationally. And I know it's hard because you're like, there's no A player tree. There's no like, oh, if you go to this website, you only get A players. Or you were thinking, in order to get an A player, I need to pay double what I pay my D players or my B players. If you play in this game, you can have marketing competitiveness. You can be a desirable place to work without necessarily paying more money. And therefore, you have a bigger selection and a better selection. So you can actually get people who know innately that they want to level up by multiplying, by replacing themselves. Let's go next slide. 360 delegation. Okay, most of us as like leaders, this is a top-down thing we got to improve. What this has to do with is how we delegate the stuff that we delegate. When we tell someone, I need this done, and here are the 3 components that we now include and everyone has to do, and it's just natural what we do. So we go with vision, resources, and definition of done. Every task. Let's say I was gonna get my assistant to run my inbox for me. Vision. My inbox is absolutely bonkers, and I want it to be zero inbox because I realize I'm missing out on opportunities. I come off as unresponsive to people because I just get lost in the mess of my inbox. And so what I would love to see is this getting to zero inbox multiple times a day. So that, or that there's a few things in here and I only see the things that I need to do. Resources. I don't have a lot of preference here. We use G Suite. You can put it into folders, you can put in rules. If you find another software you want to use, I'm happy to buy it. But I'm imagining in the term of getting to learn this and know this, I want to make myself available on calls. We can do 15, 30-minute calls multiple times a day because you're going to start to learn the inbox, learn what's important to me and what's not important to me, and then maybe even learn how I respond to things. Definition of done. 30 days from now, I want to be at a place where my inbox gets to zero every single day. And it maybe takes us 1 call or even no calls for you to know and identify what are the important things that I need to see, what are the things that I don't need to see but you feel confident responding to, and what are the things that just need to be archived or unsubscribed from. It's not, please manage my inbox. You see that? Vision, resources, definition of done. It gives you a lot of clarity. I think the biggest one is that third one, the definition of done. How many times do we give a task away and we don't give them a definition of done? They don't actually know what done looks like. And so then we're mystified when it doesn't look like it got done, right? So this was from a process adjustment. We had to change how we delegate. And this is now the gold standard. This is the standard. And on the next page, I'm going to show you how we make it so that this is how everything gets delegated. There's no way that anything gets delegated and it doesn't go through this process. Let's go to the next slide. So we took these, those 3 things, vision, resources, and definition of done, and then we put it in kind of like a tool that just made it reproducible for everyone else on the team. And so we call it like it's just a work hub, it's a work request hub, it's a funnel. We built this in HighLevel, so this was gonna be my give and it still will be my give at the end. If you guys want it, I will share this funnel to you guys if you guys are using HighLevel, and this is literally, it's just a organized funnel that has all the types of work requests and then a bunch of different forms. All the forms are similar, but not the same, because the other side of this is when the request gets created, we just zap it over into our task management, project management, right? This could be Monday, it could be, we use Nifty PM because they had like lifetime deals, and so it's kind of like ClickUp, but I hear ClickUp's great. Whatever it is, now when anyone needs something, you go here. I just had it literally a couple days ago. I asked someone for something like, oh, Matt, you just need to submit that on the form. And even though I'm the big boss, I appreciated that. Because what I want is confidence knowing that the result is like, it's gonna actually get done, right? It is better to know that like, I need to take my coffee mug and put it in the washing machine or the dishwasher and it will get clean rather than just like take my coffee mug and like throw it into the kitchen, right? Because a lot of times, B players will be inclined to just let you throw the coffee mug into the kitchen and they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna just grab this and I'll take this over here, right? But that's operational instability. That's fragility. If they take a sick day, all of a sudden I'm wondering, why isn't the coffee mug getting washed, right? I thought I just throw it in the kitchen and magically it happens. So having a hub, a process, like taking that process and then building it into the technology piece, where now every single time anything that you delegate, you just go to, it's work.bam.com, right? You go to work.bam.com, don't abuse it, guys. But you can like assign anything to any person on the team, right? And it's broken down by all these pieces and all these forms. They ask you like who's assigning it, so it's tied to their email. What's the task name? They got a name that's gonna show up exactly like that. Vision, resources, definition, and done. Usually on the top of this, we have a little like video, depending on what department it is, and they'll kind of like clarify how they like to be. What do they mean by resources, or what do they mean by vision? Priority, so we ask for priority, a scale from 1 to 10, and then we give context on the priority. So that's basically the format now for everything. And I'm telling you, just 2 days ago, I was like, hey, I was asking somebody, can you update this tile in the membership area? And they're like, oh, yeah, but actually we got a form for that. I was like, oh, great. I go there, fill it out, and I feel better. I feel better knowing that I'm putting into a machine that is going to keep it going, and I appreciated their willingness to like push back on me. Be like, no, go through the technology that stabilizes the process that we are all agreed upon. Next slide. Okay, with the right people, culture, and values, you can accomplish great things. Let's continue on here. It's just scaling culture. So, in terms of operations, can we go next slide? Getting consistent culture is very difficult, but so critical. It's hard to quantify how significant this can be from your operational context. Absolutely, we've got a team of 90 that supports over 30,000 end businesses. 30,000 customers. Now, some of that, I'm telling you, it's customers of customers, but still, like we interact with those 30,000 people. Typically, if we only focused on like even those first two, we've got great decision making and a really efficient delegation process. We could get so far. But you guys have seen this. Some of my favorite organizations, some of the people that I learn leadership and organizational structure from that I appreciate the most are actually nonprofits. Because if they can have operational efficiency and pay $0, it's on a volunteer basis, they're on a different level, right? We're talking about like profitability. And the difference between someone who is like bought in, focused on like their heart beats in alignment with the organization, it's not like a 20% improvement. It's like a 200 and 300% improvement. And you can't compensate for it. You can't systematize, you can't create a system for it, you can't create a process for it. Like, it comes down to culture. It just comes down to culture. It comes down to buy-in. It comes down to like that heartbeat of like the values. I mentioned the last one in comparison to time was like values. I actually think it's the most critical. Like, very few folks in the legacy of humanity, the big mover and changer and catalyst of any sort of significance came down to the things that are more than ourselves. And when you unify folks into those kind of things, this is the missionary versus the mercenary. Man, I'm going to choose the missionary every single day of the week. So what is it? How do we like actually tactically put this into practice? We got personality profiling, which I'll talk to, like the ones that we like and we use on that side. We implement a culture committee and internal marketing. Talk about that. And then team-led communication stacks. Let's go to the next slide. So in terms of understanding people, we need a consistent lens to understand people. There are so many out there. They're great, but I'm saying like you should have some. It has given us the ability to scale culture. Exactly this. And so the two that we use are Enneagram and Working Genius. Here's why. So Enneagram, I like it because it is constructed around relationship. If you look at it, it's mostly, the power I actually think is in context. If you look at like the Enneagram in terms of like marriage, relationships, those sort of things, it looks at how are you going to interact with other people? Yes, it's understanding yourself and some of those, but it's in the context of community. Like, what does it look like when this type of personality is with this kind of personality? What does it look like when this one's operating in a healthy state versus an unhealthy state? And so that has given us the ability to hire with that in mind. Like, we know, I'll tell you guys, I am a 7. If you guys know Enneagram, I'm a 7. And so operationally, we've found I have a list of 10 things to do, and I get through 6 of them, and I think I won the day. It was so much fun. Like, I sleep easy at night. All of my other executive leadership team are all like 1s and 2s because they have a list of 10 things to do, and they either get out a 9 to 10 and lose sleep over the 1, or they do 10 out of 10 and lose sleep because they think it should have taken me more time. I probably rushed one process there because I got through my whole list, right? But having a lens by like what you can actually build an effective team. It's hard to do that, but when we're thinking like culturally, I want an effective cultural team. I want something that like actually works very, very well. So like we've identified, Graham would know this well. It is an 8-wing 1 or 1-wing 8? It's a 9-wing 8. 9-wing 8. Yeah, 9-wing 8 doesn't work well on our team. Here's why. They're inclined to be kind of perfectionists. They want to do the right thing. And then, because they're so like, they demand it of themselves, when they have an issue, they say nothing to no one. So those, like, we consistently found who are the people that the fire starts in their department and they just say nothing. And they just judge themselves for it. And they're like, I just got to be better put on the fire. And you're like, you just got to like call in for help. Call 911, right? Whatever it is. Is that going to be, like, are those the kind of people we want to reproduce and have more of? Like, no, not at all. Like, can they be in a place where they could thrive and work really well? Like, yes, but we are a digitally connected team. We entirely remote, spanning over like 15 states. We need folks that in their isolation will seek out connection, right? Especially when things go wrong, not the folks that they're inclined to kind of like go internal when things are going wrong, and then we have to find about the fire because someone else tells us about the fire going on, right? So, and then Working Genius, this is a new one that we discovered, I think came out during COVID, but it looks at like how we get stuff done. So it looks at the difference here of like, you've got your geniuses, the things that you are uniquely great at that actually help whatever it is, the system accomplish, things happen, and then things that you're okay at, and it's usually it's like you're kind of good at it, but that's not really what lights you up. And then there's the things that are like working frustrations, right? Where you're not good at it and you don't like doing it. Like, you should be as far away from that as possible. But in the same kind of light where there's no wrong answer here, we just want to make sure we've got a complete machine, right? I don't want to have a car that has no wheels and wonder why it's really hard for us to go anywhere. It's like, we got this really powerful engine, but there's no wheels. Or we're putting wheels in there where it's like it's a square wheel, that operational frustration, like, yeah, we have someone in the wheel roll, but it seems to struggle. This doesn't work like I thought a wheel would work, right? So these two things, doesn't have to be these two, but having, like, knowing for you and your team, for your company, you have some sort of like assessment for personality because these people are going to create that culture. This becomes so critical because you start to see, like I said, 2, 3, 4x return on it because you can get people that are bought in and aligned and working really well together. Let's go next slide. The culture committee. This was something, so from a process, so that was like from a people side of it, from a process side of it, we realized we've gotten to a size, and this isn't always, I would say, I would love to know if Height does something like this, but for us, it was maybe getting over 50 folks. You get to a point where if you're not daily connecting with every person on the team, the business, like, it is becoming something different from you. It is no longer just you. Like, it's no longer, you can be the visionary there, but actually, like, the day-to-day, what's feeding whatever this machine is becoming is less about you. And so what we realized is we needed to deputize the team for culture. We already know how critical it is, how impactful it is, but if people weren't deputized to protect that, if there wasn't an intentionality there, I already said, like, you don't wander into success, you wander into chaos. We found culturally we were wandering into chaos. We found that there were certain folks that they were just inclined to focus on what wasn't there. And I'll tell you, we spend so much time and energy to be like a good thing. I'm in a fun, unique position because this business was like a side hustle, just like accidental thing that stands on itself, and like of this department, I think there's maybe 40 folks. So like this isn't even necessarily the majority of our team, but it's substantial. And it's kind of a unique thing because I've done it in a way where I don't actually care about massive profitability. because it's a built to sell model where revenue is what they care about. The strategic acquiring person will care mostly about revenue. So it's kind of fun. We have other things going like SaaS, like I sell HighLevel SaaS, that's highly profitable. So I can pay for myself and my family and my needs over here. This really just gets to support them. And so we get to do crazy things like we do 401k matching. We do like full health benefits. We cover, like we have a plan that's 100%. You can pay nothing and have your health, taken care of. We've got creative benefits like, we'll reimburse for chairs and desks and computers, and we reimburse for books and gym memberships and massages and all these things because we have a clear vision here. Especially, I'm kind of in a fun place where I don't want to invent new ways for people to suffer. This exists to solve meaningful problems for folks so that for the team and the people we serve, they have more margin in their life. That's it. That can be financial, that can be relational, that can be emotional, that can be spiritual margin. That is why it exists to serve them. And so it's kind of a fun, very unique thing that I recognize the blessed position that I'm in, that it's almost like running a nonprofit that just needs to be barely profitable. And my life is like, I don't lose sleep over getting to invest more into them. Even with that unique position and kind of blessed opportunity, it just happens. I think it's mostly due to the struggle of isolation, right? Man, darkness loves isolation. People get in their mind. They start focusing on what isn't. Or they assume uncommunicated is the same thing as like against it. And that's kind of what was happening to me, right? It got to the point where I don't even know, it's still maybe a thing that I maybe have not talked to everyone on the team. I know because in the last week, we probably hired another 5 folks. I'm not part of that process anymore. And so it can be mistaken for my absence as like an abdication of care, right? I could, whatever is bad that they experience, they could assume that it's me behind it that's against it, right? Sometimes we try to move quickly, but we're not as quick. So we had health benefits and they weren't 100%, and folks were like, why isn't it 100%? And they just couldn't have that conversation with me. I didn't even know this was a priority. I mean, go figure it's a priority, but you can kind of mix and match how you want to do your benefits. They assumed, right, the lack of connection and communication was somehow like, they painted me as the bad guy. It just happened. I couldn't blame them for it. I get it, and they're in isolation, all these things. The culture community is realizing we need to deputize culture. Like we needed folks where the decisions, actually even the initiatives that we take, they're not me making them. It's the team. The team actually grows itself. The team owns culture itself. So when they see or hear whatever, chatter about this, and it's very easy for folks to complain or whatever it is, they can sound be like, oh, actually, that wasn't Matt. That was us. I don't know if you know, but like we actually decided on it as a team, but like I can take this as feedback, but like, and so deputizing the team to own culture was a critical thing. So this is once a month. Our director of HR leads it, and we pulled out folks from different departments. So we're one team, different brands facing there, and so we've got a few folks from the HR Pro Tools team that are part of this culture committee, and that has been critical for scaling culture. And it also identified folks that were not a fit. We're starting to embody more of this is like the Zappos model of like, I will pay you to leave. If this isn't the right place for you, if this whatever doesn't feel aligned with you, I would rather you go out there and find something that's gonna like actually be fulfilling and purpose-driven in your life, because life is too short. Not inventing new ways for people to suffer. Next slide. And overcoming my limiting beliefs about communication. For the longest time, we didn't use Slack because I didn't like Slack. Right? And it was this evolution. The first Slack I think I had was about fantasy football. And so Slack got put in a position where it's like, Slack is not priority. Slack is like fun time Slack, right? And now like I've got all the million masterminds that I'm in, and it's like, okay, Slack is where that sort of stuff happens. And so I was like, we can't have team communication in Slack because you won't find me in there. In terms of culture, like you gotta be open-handed in it. And so we started to say the team gets to decide how they wanna communicate, how they wanna connect. And man, it has been an amazing, beautiful thing to see them run with that in ownership. It's also kind of understanding that the leading with empathy, considering the other person before yourself. And it wasn't that I didn't wanna serve them well, it's that I did wanna serve them well, but I was still thinking like, in terms of like gift giving and receiving there, it's like, well, which is the gift that I'm best at giving? And that's what we're going to focus on because I didn't want to be accountable to the one that I might be weakest in, instead of saying, I'm going to find out what's going to serve you best. And maybe I have to, level set expectations. That's not me. Honestly, my deficits create opportunity. That's why we've got a big team, because I can't do everything. And so at least we can, come from a position of, hey, this is running, Matt's not part of it. It can continue to thrive and work really well in there. I'm gonna give you, I did promise you guys like a blunder, and I didn't get to give you that many good stories here. I'm gonna give you a good one. This was only about 2 months ago. It's not even an old story. 2 months ago, woke up and there was this email that it kind of got flagged because our team, it's called spoofing. So they spoofed our own email to the team. But a few folks on the team had taken upon themselves in their own little isolation, thinking they needed to unionize. And so this was like a start of unionizing, right? Because of the massive complaints that they had. And so this is what I woke up to. And it was mostly around, so we are a 24/7 organization, meaning we've got folks in Australia, we have folks in the UK. For one of our departments, it's primarily Mexico. And then the US is still the biggest sector that we're in. But for our international folks, I'll tell you, like, navigating that's just a little bit different. Like, there's no vehicle for doing healthcare. I mean, I'm sure there's a vehicle for doing healthcare, but some of these countries, they might provide it that way. So compensation's a little bit different. So we've got an HR policy for international, we got an HR policy for domestic. One of those differencing policies was how we deal with overtime. Frankly, I don't want anyone working overtime because I think that it's a perverse incentive for health in your life, right? Because you're like, well, if I get paid 1.5, okay, then I'll just work crazy overtime and then burn myself out and feel really unhealthy about it, right? So if I had it my way, there'd be no overtime for the US too. I think it's misaligned with what we believe in our core values. But definitely for international folks, like, I'm not gonna incentivize you to do something that I think is unhealthy. I want you to have space and margin, right? To spend time on the things that matter most in your life. So no, I'm not gonna do this. But there were folks who they just got around and they were kind of looking for, let's find ways to be discontent. And so that was their championing. It was actually mostly like the imbalance of international policies versus domestic policies. And it was, at the time, we had a different policy for PTO, in terms of accrual, and some of it was just logistic, right? These are blind spots. We just had it, you're growing up. It's not that our heart was wrong, it's like you don't know it until you know it. So PTO, what did I just say? Overtime, right? A couple of these things. And they thought the best vehicle was to build a website and then to mass email everyone and say like, oh, and the other thing was it was wage transparency. They wanted wage transparency, so they picked that one. They wanted, like, we want to know what everyone makes in every department. We want balance for international and because honestly, there can be wage disparity there. And sometimes to their better, I'll be honest. Like, Australia is more expensive than here. But still, like, they're trying to like, hey, oh, you're paying the Australian now. It's like, well, I pay them that because they're the only person that wants to work at 2 a.m. and I need people to work at 2 a.m., But regardless, they chose this vehicle. It was an unhealthy vehicle. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, but here's what I had to realize and reconcile in that process. I'd been removed enough that my absence painted in their mind that because I wasn't there that I was against it. I told the story, it felt like if my wife wanted to eat Chinese food and she hired like a billboard truck to come to the front of the driveway and say like, can we get Chinese food? You're like, yeah, I'm actually totally fine with all of these things. This feels like way too much effort for a very small ask, right? Because here was like funny points about it. The overtime, I go and I'm like, okay, how much overtime are we having the international folks work? None. Okay, so the policy is now we pay 4x overtime. Like, this is an immaterial ask. Like, we are just finding things to complain about for the sake of complaining, right? Like, changing the policy made no difference over there. The PTO one, it was on their website, but we had actually already adjusted the policy. We had identified it in like, July. There was a difference there, and we were just like, logistically, it was how do we do like accrual carryover? So for the US base, it's easier when they bucket it up, and the next year it carries over. For international, we just didn't have a tool that did that for them, and so we just said like, it just happens, and you get it every year, and it's kind of use it or lose it. Did we really was I like trying to invent new ways for people to suffer? No. Did I make the policy? No. The director of HR did, and she probably did it out of like ease of implementation, just like, okay, I functionally don't have technology over here, so I'm just gonna like let it happen. Regardless, what it identified for me is I needed to find a way to scale, to feed into people still. And so I didn't have this on here, but like in terms of communication, I wasn't doing Zoom calls with all of these new hires. Like I was part of the hiring process. Part of it was because I wanted to release that to HR, to these departments, say, I don't actually trust you a ton. I don't have to be a part of this. I'm not a close-handed leader, right? I don't feed my family from a lot of these things that are going on anyway, so I definitely trust you. Go run with it. But I realized I needed to be serving them, communicating with them with the way that they want to be communicated. So what was the shift in there? Like now, I do one-on-one Zoom calls with every new hire after they're hired. So like they're hired and it gets the welcome committee. This is a big shift for us. Is like a lot of companies do like going away parties, or it's like when they leave they throw a party. We're like when they start we should throw a party. That's the moment to throw the party, right? If I'm going to be the one that's going to fire them, I may as well be the one. Like I should actually be better spending my time to spend an hour getting to know them, for them to get to know me, right? The second thing, we implemented these things called BAM chats. And so now I'm like, it's a little bit of one-to-many, but I do small group, hour-long conversations, could just be about anything. Because what we've said before, we've got an open door policy, we have the calendar, anyone on the team can book on my calendar, but I realized it was daunting. They look at my calendar and they're like, man, there's so much stuff on there. They felt like they couldn't take the little bit of free space that was there. And so now I just need to force the door open. So we do BAM chats multiple times a week. I'm just on there for an hour talking with like a small group of folks on the team. And this is now regular. This is not gonna stop. And for the time being, this is the best proxy for what I'd say if I had a business, if I had like a building and everyone was there, I'd walk around and just touch base with people. I need to be visible because it's not about me, it's about them. And that is a form of communication that makes them feel valued, heard, understood. I needed to make it easier for them to ask me the hard questions. Like, hey, why is the PTO policy different? And then I can explain, right? Actually, this feels misaligned to our core values. Or also if I change it right now, which fine, we'll make it balanced, it doesn't actually change the experience for the person anyways, right? Those sort of things to have that breakdown. But so in terms of the takeaways for all of us is consider how can you be communicating with the team in a way that they want to be communicated to. If I can encourage you, I guess those are other two tactical things is even as you grow, do one-on-ones with the people that are coming on there, and then have regular forced open door conversations just on a person-to-person basis. Because that was like the biggest shame of that experience is we focus ourselves and pride ourselves on being a people-first marketing company. If we're connecting people to goods and services, we actually try to do it in a way where it's people to people. We're so people first, and this felt like a very impersonal way that they felt like they had to communicate this in a way that I was unapproachable. I'll give you another wound out of that season. In that time in the discovery, I had to go through and I had a hunch. I mean, we knew our tiers of leadership are just like that. Directors, managers, doers. Some folks, we've got like leads among the doers, right? You might have like, seasoned or senior doers. And so I went to the managers, right? One, I knew I had a hunch about the department because you're like, one department doesn't have any international folks, it's not gonna be them. The other department is entirely international folks, so it's probably not gonna be them. So it's the other one, it's the mixed one, it's HR Pro Tools, like that's where it is, right? The one that's got the mix of the Australia, the UK, and the US. And so I go to the managers, and I actually didn't assume that they were part of it. But I assumed they knew who was a part of it because I assumed it was kind of bred out of the thing. And so I just went and I started talking. And these are people who've been with us for years, right? Multiple years. And when we were smaller, we were like 30 people, right? Like we'd had conversation. We knew, they knew my door was open because they've used it before. And I went through and I was talking to them. And the first two folks that I talked to, one of them just outright lied to me, and the other one intentionally misheard information. And it was around who did it, right? Frankly, the conversation was, like I said, I don't have a problem with this. Like these asks are actually very easy. This felt like the billboard truck asking to eat Chinese food, like done, done, done. Actually, the question around complete wage transparency, I just want to know what's on the other side of that. Is this a healthy movement? If you can explain, if we can talk through and understand that by everyone knowing everyone, so that we're all now collectively comparing ourselves against everybody else, that builds them up as people, I'm on board for that. If somehow doing that now actually comparison creates dissatisfaction in their life, I may not be as on board for it. But open to the conversation, right? Let's talk about it. And yeah, so the first two folks, and I didn't expect it, like lied to me or intentionally misspelled, depending on the language there. By the third one that I talked to, he owned it. Fine conversation, realized this probably wasn't the healthiest thing, probably should have just sent me an email. And I said, is there anybody else involved? I think they deserve a one-on-one conversation. This wasn't hard, this was easy. The skill that I want to teach my kids to do is to restore a relationship. And I'm modeling that. I'll have those hard conversations. And a couple of the names were the people that I talked to. And it hit me, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, either they felt removed, they felt in conflict with their own decision that they couldn't be forthright, they couldn't be honest. Or I had done something that had proven myself to be a person not worthy of their trust. But either way, it became clear to me that like, this wasn't the place for them. We're a remote team, we're a digitally connected team. The foundation of everything we do is trust. We say all the time, I don't want to hire people that I have to do screen recording on. That's not part of how we operate. And so out of that, I had to left two folks that were high performers, that were seasoned leaders. But it set a consistent tone for culture, right? Like this is not just talk the talk, right? There's going to be hard things you have to do when you need to live into this, and then also to share that. And I then had to do all team debrief over this entire process. And it was interesting because I knew it was going to be sensitive because some folks were going to assume that the action in question was they spoke up around these things. They voiced a dissenting opinion and they got terminated. It kind of worked, by the grace of God, there were other people involved who were just forthright with me. So I could show here's the parallel here. They were involved just as much. They still have a future here. They were involved and chose to kind of break one of our core values, right? Which is honesty. Like we're going to operate with honesty and integrity because if we can't trust each other, like there's no way we can accomplish anything. That feels like an operational backslide. That's going to make everyone's life harder. But knowing what I know, that preserving the culture of what we have and building something that's going to stand the test of time, where we can continue doing the boring work that works, you got to have clear vision, and you got to have the courage to take uncomfortable steps in there and get over I do not enjoy those conversations. I still do every single one because I feel responsible. I feel like the time that they are with us and a part of us is something I take very seriously. The breath in our lungs is so much more precious than the world would let us believe. And so that time, I want to honor that well. And it was fine. I knew it was going to be a growing experience for them and a growing experience for the team. So the next slide here, I think it's just a recap here. You got to stabilize if you want to scale. And these are things that we had to learn through breaking the machine as we're going it. Hopefully, depending on where you're at, you can start to implement these in little ways and not have to learn through the blunder trail of the decision-making, helping them to be great decision makers, improving how you do effective delegation, and building consistent culture. Thank you all.